There we go, hopefully. All right, guys. Hello. Welcome to week 2 of your TEM lecture. Again, my name is Lionel Jacques. I'm the course director for the class. I might not be in charge of your section, but I am in charge of your curriculum. Hopefully everybody is having a spectacular week and y'all are getting some good gameplay in. I do highly suggest, even if you're listening to the archive, that you give Outer Worlds a try. I know it'll take away from your homework time, but I'm sure you can control your gaming impulses and enjoy it. For both the art, the storytelling, they did a really great job of making very meaningful decisions that aren't as clear as you might think they would be. So for anyone going into game design or any of the related aspects, and you're looking at a current trend in a game that's managed to successfully evoke emotions in people who are playing it, definitely something you should consider. So you are in week 2. Most of you, from the work I've got graded so far in my sections, have done fairly well. Some of you are not reading all of the instructions on your assignments. You're reading like the first bit. As an example, the website one where it says the first bit you have to do, your websites for your industry. People read that part and then that's where they stopped. So I do highly urge everybody that's here now and everybody that's listening to make sure you check the rubric as the last page of the PDF and go through there, specifically go through that rubric and make sure you have all of those particular things. Okay? Does that make sense? And stuff is missed sometimes, and then sometimes people are busy, and you might not actually have the time or ability to go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this extra thing on the homework or polish it up. You might have got it done as far as you can. So there's no judging on that particular part, but for some it definitely felt like, I should say, that they didn't read all of the assignment. They just read the first part, dove in, did that, and thought they were done. Especially for responses. Make sure you do responses to your discussion posts in this coming week. Week 2, you do have the first part of one of your assignments is due Thursday night, and then the responses for it is due Sunday night. So in its entirety, it's due Sunday, but the first post should be done Sunday or Thursday night, and then the response post should be done by Sunday. So people seem to forget the responses, or they forget the Thursday deadline. So work with it as best you can. This week, we have a spectacular overview that I'll admit, shockingly, I've already gotten 3 emails of people from my sections at least that have guessed it. And that is this. It is Corwin. It's Dune. Classic science fiction from Frank Herbert. When I say classic, I mean it's like a 60s, 70s book that was hugely popular and defined a bazillion things for the genre. And you can thank a lot of the maneuverings and factions and all of that kind of stuff in Game of Thrones can actually go back to Dune and the different houses and how they conduct warfare in the game. And it's just really, really good. The book, I think, is great. There's a movie from, I think it was 85 or 86. It's totally okay, but really kind of weird. And if you didn't read the book, you're not going to have any idea what the movie's talking about. And then the Sci-Fi Channel did a mini series a few years ago. I think it's 3 parts, and it's a spectacular job of the first video or the first book. So I'd highly suggest that one for everybody. All right. But good work for all those that guessed it. Usually they don't turn up. We do get a lot that say The Mummy, but understand part of it is also in the music, and The Mummy's not science fiction, so generally won't be talking about it. So you have, again, 2 assignments this week. You have your portfolio competency with industry terms, then you have your industry growth. So within that context, we're going to go over this one first, and then we'll move on to 2.2 and make sure everybody's up to speed on it. With industry growth, people get confused because of what they're being asked to do. They are, unfortunately, both of them have research included in them, because a big part of my class with you guys is having you explore your current industries. So I'm not having you read. I'm not having you just take articles that I'm setting out, anything along those lines. So part of that, in order to have you guys develop the understanding I'm hoping for in your industry, is that we grow into people who are able to find specifically what they're looking for to answer questions on the internet, and to have a richer, deeper understanding of their industry, so that you can really kind of examine your own goals and see if you're in the right place for you, and if this road that you're on is the road that's leading to the degree that lines up with your goals. All right, so that's part of it. But the other part, like I said, is your industries are changing nearly constantly. So I can't really use published information. I have to use stuff that's on the internet and hope that you guys are researching and checking current topical stuff. So keep that in mind, okay? So this first part here, these first few paragraphs are giving you an idea of what we're looking for. So it's an overview and your thoughts and ideas on your industry, and then you're going to synthesize that information to pull your ideas of what it'll be like as it moves forward, what it might develop like. You are being tasked in this particular assignment to figure out for you what you think the trends, the next big thing will be, and how that will pan out over a 5, 10, or 25-year period kind of thing. Does that make sense? So the very first bit, there's 5 main parts. They are these 4 topics and then a summary. That's all due by Thursday, okay? Those 4 things and a summary, that's due by Thursday, and then reply to 4 of your classmates, and that is due by Sunday, the responses to your classmates. I know some of you are going to be late on the Thursday one. It happens. Just make sure everything is done, all right? I'll get to that in just a minute, Tyler. I haven't actually even gone over A yet, so give me just a minute and we'll get there. So the key thing, and I think it mentions it down here. Yeah. So you will need sources, only 2 sources. And as I explain what you're going to be working on and coming up with, you'll see that the 2 sources are going to apply more for paragraphs A and B. Those are really the only places you can have a source. There's not going to be a source for what's film going to be like in 25 years, or what's computer animation what is the trend, what is the next thing for computer animation in 25 years. Does that make sense? You can't find an article about that. You might, who knows? But what you're going to want to do is find those sources, and in this particular case, for this assignment, they will need to follow this format. So you need your author's name last and first, then the year of the work you are talking about. Even if it's an internet article, hopefully it has a date on it somewhere. If there is no year, then you put NA. Then you're going to have the title of the source, and then a link to the URL for the source. All right. So an example is this one here. Ellen Ripley, 1992, Aliens Friend or Foe, Wayland Industry Press, and the link to the website. All right. So for this assignment, this is what you should have 2 particular citations for. All right. They need to be formatted like this here. Just like that, with the text, with the parentheses, etc., etc. All right? So 2 sources, and as we go over the paragraphs, I'm going to point out to you what I'm talking about and how you can get sources. Let me get my control panel out of the way so I can actually see some of this. Now, the very first paragraph, paragraph A, and please keep in mind, I am expecting like actual paragraphs. A slew of you typed like 3 sentences and called it a go. But they weren't even like full long sentences. They were kind of short sentences. Does that make sense? So you would have like, this was really great. That's not paragraph level. All right. To reiterate, since this is only our second lecture together, if you guys have questions, wait until I'm actually finished explaining the particular topic we're talking about. I will ask if there's any questions on this particular section, and then you can address that particular question. Because many of the questions that are scrolling by in text are actually going to be answered as I explain paragraphs A, B, C, D, and E. So give me a minute. Let's go through this first. And then after I finish explaining this, if you still don't understand, you can ask your questions. All right? Does that work? All right. So the first paragraph is really kind of where your industry is now. And it says write a paragraph describing it as you currently see it and cite at least one source. I'm not asking for your opinion on your current industry. You will need to find an article that talks about the current state of your industry and then use that as a source for writing and supporting or disagreeing with your opinion on your industry's current status, if you will. So your first paragraph is the current industry. You're going to find an article that talks about current trends, where you are right now, digital delivery, etc., etc. Something about that's relevant and current for the year 2019 that pertains to your industry as a whole. Somebody asked in an email already today if for game design you could talk about gaming as a whole, or if you needed to talk about design specifically. It's kind of one of those weird areas. You can talk about gaming as a whole and find an article about gaming as a whole, but you need to understand going into game design that game design is not about game as a whole. It's about the trends and designing a gameplay and the rules of gameplay that make an engaging experience through level design and psychological manipulation and reward structures that make it an engaging game for people. Does that make sense? So you might want to focus on the design aspects and how they are impacted by the current trends, but you're probably going to have to open it up to games as a whole for your first paragraph. So your first one is looking at your whole industry, where it is now. As an overview, as a synopsis, however you want to phrase it. That's totally fine. You will need an article so that I know you're not just pooping stuff out and pretending that you are already industry professionals and clearly know how it really is, and because you're changing everything and that's how it's going to happen. That's not what we're looking for on this. I need you to do a little bit of research and figure out what is going on in your industry now and where it is in a fun way. We're not looking for like an analytics and statistical bell curve on movie delivery over the next 5 years. That's not what we're talking about. Your current industry, where it is now. Paragraph A needs one of your two citations. You can quote more if you want. Now, the key with almost any citation you have for this particular assignment, they will not be direct quotable citations. So as an example, we're going to say we're talking about home building so that it doesn't overlap anyone's industry and I don't take anything. So if we talk about home building, I might find an article about framing a house. I might find an article about new tools for synthetic glass and windows that are heat insulating. I might find an article about solar panels, or I should say roofing tiles that are actually solar panels. Each tiny individual shingle is a solar panel. So that would be 3 articles I find for the current industry and where it is. And I would talk about those in that first paragraph. But I'm not going to directly quote any of those articles. So that's just giving me the background information I need to be able to write this particular paragraph. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's the first paragraph, where you are now. The next paragraph under title B here, is you're going to forecast from your thoughts and research where your industry will grow in the next 5 to 10 years. Doesn't have to be a hard number for development in years, and in 5 years will be this, 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 and this. And people get confused here again on what exactly they're going to be researching. In order to have applicable sources for this, in order for you to extrapolate and synthesize for me where you think your industry will be in 5 years, you need to find out what some of those current cutting edge trends or upcoming things are in movies and entertainment and games and animation and graphic design and motion graphics, all of that, depending on your industry, so that you have an understanding of what cutting edge is now. If you don't have an understanding of what cutting edge is now, there's no weight at all to what you think the industry is going to be like in 5 years, because you don't know. You're not looking at what they're doing now. You're not looking at what the next big thing is right now. So keep that in mind. For paragraph B, you're going to be finding stuff about what is considered cutting edge or expecting new trends in the future. Those will be your citations for B. But again, in A and B, you should not be writing anything from your articles directly. They are just research information for you to pull the basis of your own paragraph. Do not write a summary of the article, because I will fail your paper. Do not take sections of your article and paste them in here to make your points, because that's plagiarism and I'll fail your paper. I want your thoughts. I want you to dig around in your industry and write a paragraph about what it is now. I want you guys to dig around in current cutting edge trends. A great example that's in film, so it doesn't step on anybody, is there's, I never remember the Netflix show that's from over in England called Black Mirror. It is a great show for anyone involved in technology, because it takes generally a technology and puts it to the nth degree that humans are capable of, and it'll make all of your technology stuff seem like we shouldn't have it and we're going to have robot revolution type stuff. But they did a episode, oh, I think it was last year. No, it was this year. I'm pretty sure it was this year, called Baldersnatch. And the thing with the episode is that I don't even know how to describe it. Watch it or read an article about it. Yeah, Bandersnatch. Thank you very much, Stephen. And it's one of those where they tried to do something very, very different in their storytelling, and it's an interesting note. There's also, for some of the Netflix and a lot of the streaming services, the shows are actually built and designed to be binged watched. So there's little jokes and references that if you were waiting a week for episode and stuff like that. So for film people, that's the kind of stuff they would look into. Black Mirror is not about robots. That was just an example. It's about technology. So there's one about game design, there's one about art, there's one about bees and how bees are dying off. There's one about people dying, and you miss your significant other and loved one. So it's any aspect of technology is pretty much covered in Black Mirror. And it's an interesting look at it because it's one of those where it is the nth degree. It's the okay, well, if we're in a pursuit of pushing horror video games to new levels, and we follow the natural human inclination, where will that bring us? So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about for this assignment. Paragraph A, you're looking at your current industry now. In paragraph 2 or B, you're going to be forecasting where it is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years based on trends and articles you've researched now. And then in C, you are actually going to write a paragraph on where you feel your industry might be in 25 years. Now, there is no citation for this one because that's not something we can really particularly do, but remember the exercise we discussed briefly last week. In order to look at where your industry might be 25 years from now, you probably could look 25 years previous to now. So going back to my film industry examples, I always get people that are like, oh, you'll be in fully interactive VR simulations. Okay, will we? I don't know. Because this is in film, not for video games. That they felt that's how we would be experiencing movies. Well, if we look 25 years ago, that's what, mid 90s? So that's really not that much different. We have different tools, we have different quality, we have different resolutions, cultural changes and what the stories have. People have done really interesting things with the narration and the storytelling. The special effects have certainly grown. But in those 25 years, we're not really all the way to where you're in a fully immersive movie type experience, right? So think rationally. You're allowed to be as creative as you want. I just prefer the speculation to be something on what do you really think, as an example, what is graphic design going to be in 25 years? Because if we go back long enough, outside our 25 window, graphic design wasn't done on computers. It was literally copy and pasting pieces together with real paper, ink, and painting. So with that in mind, those people would never have envisioned today where the drawings are all done on computer. You can resize stuff, shrink stuff down, change colors on the fly, do dynamic layouts. So when you drop an image around, all the text automatically wraps around it. That is some science fiction shit for someone in the 1960s in the print industry. And that's where we are now. But by the same thing, we don't have flying cars right now. right? So it's a trade-off. So keep that in mind. For paragraph C, look 25 years in the past in your industry and see where we were, and then move forward 25 years from now and try to keep it in the same scale. Keeping in mind that some stuff does accelerate. As it shrinks down and gets smaller and smaller, and technology gets tinier and tinier and more powerful, things that might be awkward now might be more doable then. So we'll see how that goes. That's our third paragraph. First one, again, is a summary of where your industry is now with a citation. Second one is a paragraph about where your industry will be in the next 5 to 10 years based on citations, talking about trends and where the developing is happening and that kind of stuff. The third one is where your industry will be in the next 25 years. The fourth one is, again, no citations, is totally on you. Oh, someone just mentioned Blade Runner. Where is it? Yep. November 1st, this last week, was the last day. October 31st, I'm sorry, was the last day that Blade Runner was set in the future. And Blade Runner is a great classic science fiction movie, and we are not in any way, uh, where that movie projected we were. But by the same token, science fiction has given us a lot of bits and pieces that have become a reality because they've inspired people to go, is that possible? Is that something we can do? So keep that in mind. So paragraph, again, repeating, your industry summary where we are now with citation, at least one. Then your next paragraph is where your industry is going to be in 5 to 10 years with at least a citation. Then your third one, you're pulling all the way to 25 years, which is a little bit trickier. So consider that. And then in your fourth paragraph, it's really where you want your career to be and how you want it to develop. Not so much the how, but do you have goals? What do you want to achieve by your 5-year mark? What do you want to achieve by your 10-year mark? What do you want to achieve by your 15-year mark? And give details about it. The final paragraph is exactly what it says. This is where you're writing details for your stuff, your goals at 5, 10, 15 years. The structure for this is just a normal paragraph. In this one, you are going to summarize your plan, your career plan for moving forward, and then you're going to summarize where we are now and in 5 years, and this is how the 5 to 10 years might relate to my goal. And the third paragraph is 25 years, and I don't have a plan for 25 years because I don't think video games as we think of them now is even going to exist. They're going to be integrated into a different industry, and video game consoles will be obsolete by then. That's all. Your last paragraph is a summary of your thoughts on the 4 paragraphs you already wrote and kind of wrapping it all up. Does that make sense? Yes, you will summarize A, B, C, and D collectively. And then the giant sticking point that always screws everybody up, please, for the love of all that you hold dear to your heart, come back and reply to your peers. And I would show you previous crappy responses to peers, but I'm not going to because I don't want to shame anybody on the internet with names. Not from you guys, you haven't done any responses yet, but I will point out to you that this right here, this that I'm highlighting on the screen right here, is not a 5-sentence, 1-paragraph reply. So the idea of the replies is not busy work. And if you reply to it as if it is just busy work with, Mary, I thought your post was really great. I totally agree with it. I will give you 0 points for your response post because clearly you didn't want to put in the effort. Okay? If you write, Mary, I agree with your thoughts on this particular thing that made me look up another article that mentioned this over here. Do you think that might be a trend that continues? Or do you think this is one of those things that's going to be replaced completely? Blah, 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 blah. All right. It's an engaging, you want to further the learning community. Do you remember your RISE model stuff from your previous classes? It doesn't need to be that formulaic, but please, for the love of Pete, engage in your fellow students, talk to them about their post, and have something that's substantive and at least 5 sentences long. A discussion is what we're aiming for here, okay? That's this assignment in a nutshell. 4 individual paragraphs, a 5th paragraph that is kind of a summary of your plan and the other paragraphs, and then 4 replies to your peers. Not 1 reply to your peer, not 3 replies to your peer, but indeed the full 4 replies to your peer. All right? Now that I've explained 2.1 completely to you guys, do you have any questions on this material? All right. The citations you can actually just put at the base of the paragraph. So you can, if you want, keep it separate. But so say this is your paragraph here, and this is the start of your second paragraph, because we all know it's not long enough to be a paragraph. In between, you can just have a line with your citation in. Does that make sense? Corwin, you mentioned something interesting. You say, outside of Wikipedia, are there any other sources I wouldn't accept? And just to remind you, I'm rereading your question because the people on the archive won't see your chat. So here's the thing. Wikipedia itself shouldn't be used as a citation, but Wikipedia is a spectacular source in many cases for citations. And if I can do it, we'll do, let's see, Outer Worlds Wiki. Nah, that's not going to work. We'll do computer animation. So if we do computer animation Wikipedia, and we go here and we go, oh, look, blah, blah, it's all neat. It's cool, it's cool. Oh, I can't use any of this information. It's all useful information. Oh, look at this. Oh my gosh. As we get towards the bottom, there are citations, books, page numbers. Some of them go to articles. Now, obviously, if it's a page 188 in this, that's not going to be of much use for you unless you have access to that particular book or you search for it online. However, some of these are actually related to various articles that you should be able to retrieve online. And if nothing else, it will give you an idea of what other people might have searched for to find articles and histories. Does that understand? So if you think of Wikipedia as the fixer, the guy in the back alley that opens his coat up for you and goes, hey, Mary, I got some citations for you. What do you think? You want some citations? I got some citations for you. Right down here. Just follow these links. Follow these links. You'll get to some good sources. You know what I'm saying? So it's something there for you to help get you started. It's not going to be a citation on its own, but they find a lot of citations on, now it's not unfortunately on all wiki pages because all wiki pages aren't moderated, but some are. And the ones that are will always have the citations like this extensively at the bottom. Okay, does that make sense? So it's a great, great starting point. Let me move up. There were some questions. When citing, do I want links with them? I'll refer to you, Joel, to where I asked for specific formatting on the citation, and I will leave it to you to determine if there should be a link or not. Outside Wikipedia. Should be posted to discussion boards as plain text and not a PDF, correct? Sabrina, That's ideal. However, if you're in the habit of saving it as a PDF, as long as it is accessible by your peers, you can simply upload your PDF and your fellow students can read that particular part. So if it's easier for you to just type it up, save it as a PDF and export it and upload that to the thing, that's totally okay. Does that make sense? Sarah asked, can we quote a small part as long as we give credit? Yes, but understand that if you have a 5 sentence paragraph, admittedly a small paragraph, for what I'm hoping you'll be writing, if one of those 5 sentences is a quote, that really means you've only done 4 out of 5 parts of the paragraph. So keep that in mind with the length of your quote and how you're integrated into your discussion. So obviously, if you write 6 or 7 sentences in your paragraph, and one of those sentences is a quote, that's okay. That's going to work fine. I just want you to not have certain pieces of information as you move forward or lose points because you're not writing in your own words some of the other stuff. So let me get back up here. Can we use the site or two from last week? Yeah, that would be totally fine, Christopher. You can use some of your previous sites. Oh, Citations do not have to go onto a separate page. Do you want us to reply to people in our industry or dive into other industries? I want you to reply to any 4 people that when you read their stuff, you go, oh, that was pretty neat. I am not even requiring you to, we're going to put you on the spot, Mary. If Mary's has a super interesting post that she made and everybody in the class responds to her as one of their 4, that's totally okay. I am not like, the first only 3 responses or every person needs a response before you move on to the next one. That's not how discussions happen in real life. That would be the equivalent of you sitting at a table talking to Mary about what she was interested in, and somebody else comes over because they're super excited about the same topic, but they can't talk to you two about it because, well, you already commented on it and somebody else is sitting at another table and talking about something unrelated. Does that make sense? So don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. All right. So let's see. We scrolled past it. Small links, small quotes are okay. Just make sure you're paying attention to length, like I said. Are we able to use industry sites from last week? Yes, you can. But also dig into new stuff. Look around. Go in the rabbit hole a little bit. Sarah, did I answer your question, Sarah? The names jump by quite a bit, so I'm not sure which ones I'm reading. We can post resources after the 5 paragraphs rather than laced throughout the text, right? Yes, you can. However it works for you, as long as I have the citations and they work along these lines. All right, then we'll be good to go. All right, this is really the tricky assignment for you this week. Keep in mind that it's going to take you longer than you think because putting your thoughts down in an intelligent manner generally takes longer than you think. And then having to dig around in your current industry to make educated posts about what your industry is like and its state and where it's going to be and how it's going to develop is something you want to look into and consider. That's going to take a little bit of time, as well as your responses to your peers. Yes, you can finish your responses to your peers in about 30 minutes if you were writing the vacuous little 2 sentences like we were talking about. Great job, Mary. Really liked how you thought about this particular thing. Just do me a favor and don't even post that. If you're not going to write the response of a modest length and be respectful of your peer and engage in a conversation with them, just don't write the response, man. I'm not giving you points for it if you're only writing a sentence, so just save your time. Save your time. Either do what's being requested or don't do what's being requested. Don't half-ass it. You're the one paying for this class. You're the one coming through here. If you're going to half-ass it, you're not going to get anything out of it. All right, let's see if there are any other questions. Oh, yes. Alexander, that's a spectacular thing here. Take notes. And for anyone who's going to write the discussion directly on the discussion board, I highly, 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 highly suggest you write it in Word first anyways, and then copy paste that onto the discussion. Just in case FSO has a hiccup or your computer internet connection has a hiccup, I would hate for you to lose your discussion post that you spent all the time writing. That make sense? Yes, it's spelled do or do not. There is no try. No, Brian, because then your fellow peers have to download it. If you put in a either direct post as a discussion or a PDF, because a PDF they can click on and it will open in another tab in their browser, and they don't have to physically download your document onto their device. Does that make sense? And Randall, yes, you can use the TED Talk as a reference. All right. Looks like all questions on this, so we are going to wrap up 2.1. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and we're out. And we go to this one. This, I'd say the biggest complaint I get of this. Now, the gentleman did a good video, and I don't knock you for having. In week 4, you have to do a reflection video about what you learned. And pretty much he used it as a sarcastic, satirical platform to talk about how he felt the class was just how to Google research and that he didn't understand the point of it or why it was an actual class. And that they actually had him looking up vocabulary terms. Well, guess what, boys and girls? You're actually going to put on your big boy pants and you're going to go from a fan right into a profession. And they're going to talk about things that you have no earthly idea what they mean. You're going to go to web pages later on in your time in this class and in the future to look up things on how to do it for your industry, for your professional job. And if you don't understand the terminology they are using on that other end when they're telling you how to do something, that research is going to do you no good whatsoever. So that is the basis and objective of this particular assignment. Industry terms. I'm not having you just do fluffy vocabulary work here. I used as an example last week. We'll go to Stack Overflow. And Stack Overflow talks about a bazillion different things. And where's my search? I can't see the search window. Network connections. We'll just do Swift. I think this is the one I did last week. So if we go here and they talk about iOS, they talk about APIs, IT tools, Lyrium, all of this stuff, packet tracing. Okay, developers, make note. Reading this will do nothing for you if you don't know what an API is, right? So this week's assignment is for you to dig into your industry, find terms that are used in your industry, examples of where they've been used, and kind of make a vocabulary list of that. You're going to do 7 from your degree and use your own words to explain what they mean. That does not, and I'm going to pause everybody who's typing questions and stuff in chat right now totally. That does not mean make up what you think it means or what you know it means. because that's not what we're talking about. You need to have the actual definition of the actual term, but write that definition in your own words. Does that make sense? I'm going to stress this again because about, let's see, how many people are here? Come on, control panel. All right, 52 people are here. So 3 of you are going to paste in exact definitions from a dictionary. And I'm going to fail you for it. And you're going to tell me, but I don't understand why I had all the definitions. Okay? We will also have at least one of the 50 people in here that just makes up their definition. They'll say modeling in computer animation means this, this, this. Because it's their own words and it's what they think it means. But it's not what it means. So please look up the word. That's all you have to do is look up the word and then write the definition in your own words. The tricky part for this assignment, okay, is this. You want to find an example of it being used somewhere and share that reference, okay? So as an example, if developers, I guess this is a gimme for you, if you were talking about APIs, well, gosh, look, APIs are mentioned like 3 times, 4 times on this page. Hopefully you know what an API is. If you have an API and you look up the definition for an API, that would be a really, really great example, don't you think, of it being used in relation to the industry. So that's what you have to do. I want citations, and I need a link for the sources. All I need is the link for the sources. I do not need the author, blah, 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 blah. I just need a link to wherever it was you found it from. So you're going to, for your industry, find 7 terms, write the definition in your own words, and then you are going to give me an example of that term being used somewhere. All right? That's all. The second part, and this is what I mean, we literally have people who do 7 and stop. Okay? Then you're going to do 7 terms from another degree. Any other degree you want. I do ask for this one, you try to focus on one specific other degree that you may have talked about or researched a little last week and found interesting. And then once you've got that, so if you're in game art and you thought, oh, you know what, I really like this web development stuff, I think it's kind of neat, that's fine. Concentrate on that one for this week. So you will have a grand total at the end of this assignment. How many total terms? Right, 14 total terms. Each will have a definition, and then they will have a reference to an example of them being used, right? Nice. Now, here's the last bit I'm going to leave you with on this particular one. Well, we have more to discuss, but this is key here. Okay? Just like the plan of attack, I do not require that you give me a typed word and the definition of the word, and we go through it, and it's really exciting. And I will actually go to our PDF. That's all the way at the bottom here. And we'll open it up. And in the middle, here are 3 examples. Okay? The example on the left is, I would say, 80% of what we get submitted for this assignment. And that's totally okay, because some of you out there are not crazy creatives. You are crazy developers, which is a whole different mindset. And the developers are going to give me generally what's on the left. Then we will have some folks who are a little more outside the box thinkers and are going to give me something like this. This is very pleasant, very easy to read, very see the meaning, connotations, And then we have people that are going to go into Keynote or PowerPoint and do this for each term, where they have examples and they show it being used in multiple places, and they give the definition and they talk about its differences, etc., etc., etc. So this is a spectacular example. This is a great example, and this is still a good example. There's no bad example in this one, okay? Thank you, Jake. We actually came up with the background for that specific reason, and the color selection and everything. So I went for a retro tech look. So the terms to get you started are here, but they are also on FSO. If you look here, did I remember? I did remember to update everything. So if you are in software development and you're confused, it is now called computer science. And if you're in cloud and you are confused, it is called information technology. So that's pretty much what it said right there. All right. So these words are a starting point for you. You do not have to stick to this list. I encourage you to at least get started with words that are on this list, because this list is compiled from all of your program directors. So Jason Hinders, Eric Rosenfeld, Jay Bunner, all of those people provided terms that they think it's useful for you to know. That's what we have here. But these words might be ones you aren't pushed to understand. You might know all these. Randall, you can do the 7 first in everything you do here at Full Sail. Work as hard as you can to get exactly what's required first, and then with your remaining time, go above and beyond. Okay? Because if you aim for above and beyond from the get-go and say you write 15 terms for the first part of the assignment, but you never got to the second part of the assignment, that's still a 50. Does that make sense? Mary, the third brilliant example was actually done in PowerPoint. Most of the students that get creative with it do PowerPoint or Keynote, because you can export it with graphics and everything else. If you have access to InDesign, you can also use InDesign, anything like that. All right. So I would suggest highly starting on this list, but you do not have to stick to it. Oh, look, developers, here's API. Look at that. That's so weird. Look at that. Right over there. Jailbreak platform, iOS, SDKs, all good stuff. Responsive design. Yule. Ugh. Cascade design. Waterfall design. Bleh. All important stuff to know, but it is sometimes just not stuff that makes your head hurt. I'll just say that. So read through, choose the terms from here. If there are other terms that you want to utilize that you have come across in your research, please, for the love of God, do not just pull from your personal experience to give me terms that are used in your industry, unless you are already an active industry professional. Okay? Please don't do that. All right? So choose these terms as your base, 7 from yours, 7 from the other. Find a good competent site where you can use your resources to give you definitions for these terms as they apply to your industry. I will give you an example for developers. The term form means different things for about 4 of your industries. F-O-R-M, form, means different things for developers, means different things for graphic design, means different things for game art and computer animation. So try to figure out if the definition you're utilizing is relevant to your specific industry. And as long as it is, you should be good to go. Let's see, Brian, I see your question pop up, and that's the base explanation, so I'll start there. Can we do multiple degree references, like 3 from one degree, 4 from another? You mean for part 2? You can, but it might behoove you to stick to one that you found particularly interesting in week 1's exploration of other industries. If you choose one, you will not lose points if you choose different terms from different industries, though. I would prefer you do all of one, but I will not dock points for exploring stuff. For the reference, you are actually allowed to quote the actual part of the website that's talking about it. I don't need you to write the example of it being used, so to speak. I need you to show me where it's being used. So yeah, that's totally fine. Can we use the same link for more than one term? Joel, I assume you mean for the definition or resource references, right? Yes, you can. TED Talks are not really valid for they can be valid for the reference. They cannot be valid for the definition. Let me see. Keeps popping down. I apologize. I think that's most of it. My Hero Academia. I think that was all the ones that were up there. Sabrina says, I'm confused mildly about the example aspect. I understand we have a word, write the definition on words, and what comes an example directly after. Do we type out the example we find or strictly paste the link? Type out the example you found and share the link for it. Both. Does that make sense? So do not have to quote the word being used, just like a reference. You can provide just the link. No, you can't. I need to see in the exact words. You copy and paste the sentence you're talking about. So like on the example we're talking about here, I would take this bit that talks about APIs, and all I need is this. Copy paste that in, and then this HTML link, and we're good to go for our particular assets for this one. Okay? All right, let me see. When will week 1 assignments be graded? Week 1 assignments will be graded no later than by close of day, sometimes early evening on Thursday. Most of us have started. Monday is usually overcome with about 180 emails or so. And then some people get started on the grading. Most people get started grading on Tuesday and grade Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you do not have a grade by end of day Thursday, like Thursday evening, please email me and let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Randall, yes, TED Talks are valid as the reference for the example of it being used. TED Talks are not valid for where you found the definition. All right, anything else? Any other questions on 2.2? All right, good. Nice. All right, well then that is going to actually wrap up our lecture for this evening. That is all I have for you guys, and even with my pre-rambling and chastising, we made it pretty much on time. Let me finish this recording. Thank you guys all for your attendance and your efforts this week. If you have any questions, just communicate with your instructors ahead of time. Please do not wait till Sunday evening at 11:30 to look over the assignments and try to figure out what you need to do. Generally, it's too late for us to help you. So keep that in mind as you move forward. The more time you give us, the more time we can help you.